everyone. Today we'll be doing the German grammar topic Wenn. Okay, this is called the Nebensätze mit Wenn. So basically, what happens in Nebensätze mit Wenn, that is the conjunction when, W-E-N-N when. The meaning of this conjunction is when or if. Okay, so it is a conditional sentence. Always a conditional sentence, that means it has a condition attached to it. So let's get started. Now, there are certain points which you need to take care. First is, when connects the main clause with the subordinate clause. That means there are two sentences in when. So one is the main clause and other is the subordinate clause. Main clause and the subordinate clause. The subordinate clause always has a condition, okay, and the main clause will always be dependent on the subordinate clause. Second, a sentence with when is a subordinate clause. Now, the subordinate clause is the when sentence, that is the conditional sentence. Okay, the verb in the subordinate clause goes at the end of the sentence. Like children, you must have studied before the conjunctions thus, while. All these conjunctions used to have the verb at the end. So here as well, whenever we are using the subordinate clause with when, the verb, the conjugated verb of the sentence will go at the last. Next, when sentence gives a condition. As I have already told you, when sentence has the condition and the main clause is always dependent on the conditional sentence, that is the subordinate clause. Now, it can come before or after the main clause, but it can't stand on its own. It refers to the main clause over here. That means it can even come, it refers to the subordinate clause when. So we can either start the sentence with when, that is the subordinate clause, or we can start the sentence with the main clause as well. So now, two very important things when we are having the sentence with when. First is the main clause. The main clause is dependent on the subordinate clause. So I told you that either we can start the sentence with the main clause or we can have the main clause in the second part as well. Or we can also start the subordinate clause with the subordinate clause, or we can have the subordinate clause after the main clause. Okay. Now we'll go through some of the examples. Ich gehe spazieren. It is the main clause. I am going for a walk. It is the main clause. Now the question arises, when will I go for a walk? That is the condition. So the other sentence is, das Wetter is schön. This is the subordinate clause. So the condition here is, when the weather will be good, I will go for a walk. So the main clause is ich gehe spazieren and the condition attached to it is das Wetter is schön. Now let's see how we form the sentences. So here we have started with the subordinate clause when. Okay, so here we have started with the when sentence. Now what happens? When we are having when in the starting, so when das Wetter schön is, as I told you, that with when sentence the verb goes at the end. So here we have started the sentence with the subordinate clause when, then comes the subject das Wetter, then comes the adjective, and then at the last comes the verb. So as you already know, the comma separates the sentences. So the first sentence is the subordinate sentence, the subordinate clause, it started with when and the verb went at the last. Now after comma comes the main clause. Now you have to take care of the position of the verb of the main sentence. What happens here is, if we are starting with the subordinate clause, the verb of the subordinate clause comes at the last, but after the comma, the verb of the main clause comes at the first position. This is the rule. So now we'll just revise once again. The verb of the subordinate clause comes at the last and the verb of the main clause comes at the first position. So here the rule goes like verb comma verb. Okay, so when we are starting with when we are starting with the subordinate clause, the rule goes as verb comma verb. Here verb, the last position with the subordinate clause, and then after comma comes at the first position of the main clause. Okay, now we can also write it the other way around. Ich gehe spazieren, wenn das Wetter schön ist. Now, to notice here that here we have started with the main clause. Okay, here we have started with the main clause. So here the position of the verb is normal. So we have, whenever we will start with the main clause, we will have the normal sentence, that is verb at the second position. Then after comma comes the subordinate clause. Again we are starting here. The subordinate clause starts with when, and when the verb goes at the last. The verb positioning with the when sentence will never change. It will always be at last. So see, the verb here is again at the last. So just one thing, I'll just tell you one thing once again. If the subordinate clause can either come before the main clause or it can come after the main clause. In the first sentence, the subordinate clause, the when sentence came before the main clause. And in the second one, the when sentence, the subordinate sentence came after the main sentence. Only you need to take care of the verb positioning. Okay. Now one more example. Ich gehe nicht in die Schule. This is the main clause. I will not go to the school. Now condition. What is the condition? When will I not go? Ich bin krank. Condition is when I am unwell, when I am sick, I will not go to the school. This is the subordinate clause. Now we have formed the sentence. Wenn ich krank bin, gehe ich nicht in die Schule. Again we have started with the subordinate clause when. When is the verb, it came at the end, then comes the comma, then comes the same rule, verb, comma, verb. The second sentence, this is the main clause. The verb of the main clause will come here at the first position, then the subject is nicht in die Schule follows it. We can write it the other way around as well. We have started here with the main clause. Main clause will have the normal sentence, that means verb at the second position. Ich gehe nicht in die Schule, comma. Now take care again, subordinate clause starting with when, and again the verb goes at the end. So whenever we are having when sentence, the verb goes at the end. Only need to take care that whether we are putting it before or after the main clause. Okay. Now some more example. Ich komme nach Hause, wenn ich Zeit habe. Main clauses, I will come back home. When will I come? When I have time. So I will come home when I have time. First sentence is the main clause, second sentence with when is the subordinate clause. So we have one more example here. Wenn es regnet, bleibe ich zu Hause. Now what is the main sentence here? The main clause is I will stay at home. I stay at home. Condition, when will I stay at home? When it rains. So here again when sentence and the verb goes at the end. Okay. So now I would like to thank, and I hope you all liked it and you have understood something. Okay, so here Dankeschön, thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, do give it thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Okay, do click the bell icon to receive the notification whenever a new video is uploaded. Tschüss! Auf Wiedersehen! Sei gesund!